The situation at Kabul's airport is said to be calmer today after at least 7 people died there in chaotic scenes on Saturday. Thousands of people gathered outside the airport in Afghanistan's capital trying to leave the country after the Taliban took power there 1 week ago. Our chief international correspondent Lise Doucette has just arrived there and sent us this report.
It hits you like a brick as soon as you put your foot on the tarmac at Kabul International Airport. The intensity, the urgency, the darkness of this hour. In every direction I look are the huge grey military transport planes from the United States and to many other countries. Military helicopters in the sky. And heading toward every single plane, a long queue of Afghans. The lines don't seem to end. Told they can only bring one suitcase, the clothes they're wearing, as they leave their country behind. A country now controlled by the Taliban. But it's not just a country they're leaving behind the life they lived. And for the young educated generation, the life they built up, the dreams they cherished over 20 years. This whole scene here is so orderly and calm, but just beyond this perimeter, thousands more Afghans. So said to be 14,000 inside this airfield controlled by the US military waiting to board, another 10,000 and more outside, a crush of people wanting to leave however they can. No one wanted this moment, expected this moment, will forget this moment.
Lise Doucette. Kim Sengupta is the defence and security editor for the British newspaper The Independent. He was at Kabul airport on Saturday and he told us about the deaths that took place there.
Well, it was going to happen sooner or later, I suppose, rather sadly. There have been deaths before, but not so many, and not in front of us. So what basically happened was there was a surge of people adding to the very, very large numbers already there, and the surge was partly prompted by statements made by politicians in London and Washington, which seemed to make people feel that the evacuation that's going on now might be curtailed and might end early. So that led to basically panic being piled on top of panic. And we, those journalists are here, started getting phone calls from our Afghan friends, our Afghan colleagues, even more worried than they were, saying they were going to make their way to the airport.
Well, with so much focus on the situation at the airport, the UN Refugee Agency has urged the international community not to ignore the plight of millions of desperate Afghans elsewhere in the country. Catherine Stubberfield is the spokesperson for the UNHCR.
The humanitarian crisis is deepening in Afghanistan. At the moment, that's very much an internal displacement crisis. We're not seeing large-scale movements across borders. Now, of course, the United Nations is well prepared for these challenges. As of today, UNHCR still has around 200 staff on the ground in Afghanistan. We have access to all provinces. We're able to operate in about 2/3 of districts. But what we really need is much more international support at this point. And that means not focusing only on the worrying situation at Kabul airport and the few that may be able to evacuate from the country, but rather the 40 million Afghans living there in total, and half of them are in need.